Our today's guest speaker is Dr. Shalini Kashmiria. She is an assistant professor at Department of Law, Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla, with a teaching experience of almost 15 years, with specialization in business law. Her research papers, articles, conference proceedings in referred and peer-reviewed national and international journals, and chapters in edited books. Volumes have micro-scale perspective, mostly focus on cybercrimes, biopiracy of traditional knowledge, competition, policy, IPR issues, biodiversity conservation, and company law. She has an active participation in seminars, workshops, as paper presenter, and is frequently invited as a resource person in national and international conferences and faculty development programs. She has done a project on tribal communities of Himachal Pradesh in collaboration with Ministry of Tribal Studies, Government of India. She has also organized National Moot Court and an investor awareness workshop in collaboration with SCBI Shimla Division. She is Department Coordinator of Cleanliness Drive under Pradhan Mantri Swachh Bharat Mission and Department Coordinator of University Alumni Association. I welcome you, ma'am, for today's session. You are going to speak on plagiarism in legal research, if I'm not wrong. Ma'am,
Right.
please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruman Gul. Very warm evening to everybody. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you may go ahead.
And is the PPT visible to everybody?
Yes.
All right. So first of all, I'm very much thankful to the Cape Cameron Trust for having me here. And my heartfelt gratitude towards the host college also for giving me this opportunity, this platform to interact with you on a topic, which is not only a topic, but it is the burning issue in the present academics, especially in the higher education system, that is plagiarism. I just came to know that the audience was talking about plagiarism, so I have tried to simplify it, not focusing more on legal research, but I have picked up the things which are common for all kinds of research, right? So switching to my first slide, and here we were the term plagiarism. What is the concept of plagiarism if we talk about it? If we go through the technical meaning of the word plagiarism, it has been derived from a Latin word called as pleasure. That means to kidnap or to abduct. So everybody knows it, when the kidnapping or abduction is done, that is done without the consent of the other person, without his consent and under pressure, with the intention of kidnapping and abduction. So if we try to imply this definition when we do our write-ups and we are doing working papers and research projects and research papers and articles, whenever someone who is writing an article, he uses the intellect. Here when I'm talking about intellectual product, that goes with the original ideas of someone else, original text of someone else, or the result, the inferences of some scientific investigations done by some other person, and he uses those intellects for writing his own paper without taking permission from the original author, and even without acknowledging that person. It is called as plagiarism. In simple terms, if we try to understand, it is simply goes with cut, copy, and paste, right? So the very first thing is, what exactly is included in plagiarism? So plagiarism cannot be restricted only to the text or the articles. It can be any original idea that comes to the mind of a person. It also includes some empirical research being carried out somebody and the result of that empirical research. It includes any kind of information which is unique to a particular person, which he has developed or which he has invented because of his research, and that is being used intentionally or unintentionally by somebody else, claiming it to be his work, and without acknowledging or without giving credit to the person who is actually the originator of that particular intellect, right? So we can say that plagiarizing can also be called as fraud, stealing, and passing of the ideas or words of the other, and pretending it to be your own actual original work, right? And it also goes with the term called as misrepresentation, where you know yourself that this is not your work, but you use it and you try to represent, mislead the readers by portraying that this is your work and not work of the actual owner, right? So there are a variety of things in the research area in academics that can be plagiarized. That includes the ideas, original ideas of a person. It also includes the inventions. It includes the authorship. It includes the words, specific principles enunciated by somebody. It includes the slogans given by someone which became very popular, which has a societal impact, and people recognize a particular slogan being called up by a particular person. It can be any geographical design and indications. It can also be related to your intellectual properties. That is your copyright, patent, and the trademarks, right? So some people also try to understand this concept in terms of intellectual property theft. See, we have three terms here: copyright, patent, and trademark. The term patent refers to when somebody invents something. So if somebody is a scientist and he is inventing something, that particular formula which he has used is his original formula, which is of which he is an authorized person to the exclusion of the entire world. So he takes patent of that. And suppose it's I have some ideas and I'm writing a book on something. I have done some empirical work and I'm writing some write-up and I'm writing a book. So that is my patented material because I am the originator of that idea, that text, those words I'm using inside the book, right? And then I want to get it published. So I will definitely approach some publishing house there. So this publishing house who is basically publishing our book, they will take the right to copy our original idea. So whenever you see a book, the second page talks about the copyright. So copyright is the right to copy, which you have sold to a particular publishing house. You have taken a ransom for it, or you have entered into a contractual obligation, right? And third is your trademark, is the logo that you see on the book. So whenever any kind of plagiarism is happening here without the permission of the author who has the patent, or without the publishing house which has already published that material, and you are just cutting it there from there, or copying from there, and you are pasting and you are making your own article without even citing the sources from where you have taken that material, it is called as plagiarism, right? Now, whenever plagiarism happens, what are the consequences of it? So the very bad impressions that a person who is into plagiarism is, first of all, it is a dishonest act. So once a person is in habit of dishonestly stealing somebody else's work, the authenticity of his work comes into a question mark. Second thing is, the person who is copying the work of the actual owner without taking permission from that person, his rights as an authorized owners are also harmed. So that can also lead to demoralizing of that person. He cannot trust his surroundings, or he loses interest in further research because his original genuine works have been stolen by somebody else, right? Third is, it is a very big hindrance to the learning process of a person. If a person is in habit of just copying and pasting somebody else's material for some kind of API scorings or some kind of publication of article just to boost in society, his mind will stop thinking and working. He will not be able to develop his own genuine original ideas because he will not be in habit of reading. He will not be in habit of going through the literature reviews, finding out the research gaps, and then carrying out his own genuine research. So that is a hindrance to the learning process of that person, which is disastrous for him as an academician or a researcher. Next is it also result in bad writing. You are not writing anything that makes sense. You are just copying, you're finding something interesting and you're just copying somebody's write-up, somebody's opinion, and you are just making your own article by compiling few of the words from here and there. So that is a very good example of a bad writing, which is not credible, right? And usually when you do this kind of patchwork without citing the sources, the one who is reading is also blank. He will lose interest in it because it's just like an information you have collected from here and there. And he will always be questionable regarding the sources which are mentioned, because may or may not you will mention them. And even if you are mentioning it, they can be wrong because you don't want to be caught up. So it is usually a kind of messy write-up of no use, no credentials. Now, let's take an example of what kind of things can be included in plagiarism, and it is common to all kind of researchers in social sciences. The very first one is copying parts of the text word to word without quotation marks. See, whenever we write some research paper or working paper, or we are writing a thesis, there is a principle that if you are in habit of writing some quotations, also quotations should be avoided. They should not be used to an extent that it looks like a quotation and a repository of quotations only in your articles. But if you are writing quotations, then the quotations, the language of the quotation should not be changed. The quotations, if you take quotation written by, suppose it is a literary analysis in linguistics, in English, in Hindi, in Sanskrit. So if you are taking, you are doing a literary analysis, you're writing about Shakespeare and you're talking about, you're analyzing or critically studying his novels, you are trying to talk, you want to explain in your research what he talked about, what he thought about. Definitely, yes, you will use his wordings word to word. So when you are using his wordings word to word inside your research paper to have a brighter perspective of his thinking process, you should definitely put them under the inverted commas. It should be quoted properly with in texts where you will mention from where you have taken, which year it was, or you can also do it in, and definitely in text should be followed by the references you give at the back of your article. So when this copying is of the text is word to word, that is what I'm talking about, the quotations, word to word you are copying there, not the entire paragraph you're copying or the entire article, you're just picking up some words written there and they're totally same, then you must give the source of citation and you put them under quotation marks. That is the first thing. Second thing is, if you are paraphrasing a text by changing a few words or altering the sentence structure without citing the source. Now, this is a very important thing. I will be discussing this thing in detail also. Paraphrasing means now you're picking up a paragraph. You're picking up a paragraph. People are very smart these days. What they do, they pick up a paragraph from somewhere and they just change the lines up and down. And they write the same paragraph with the same idea, with the same meaning, right? And they portray that they have not taken it from somewhere. Although if you read that particular paragraph as a whole, it totally resembles or almost resembles the originator of the paragraph. So if this kind of paraphrasing you are doing, that is you're writing a paragraph without citing the source from where you have taken this idea of the paragraph, this is also called as plagiarism, right? Third thing is giving incorrect information about a source, that you are citing the sources and references, and when somebody is trying to open those pages, the information is not correct. So this is also plagiarism. Then you are just doing quotings inside your write-up and doing nothing else, and you are not giving the citations also. This is also a plagiarism. Then we have reusing the work you have already submitted for a previous assignment. Although we have the right to reuse our already written papers, but whenever you are using your already published papers, you should put some new ideas in it. If you are just churning the paper and you are just changing the subheadings here and there, and you are changing only the title of the topic, then it is considered to be a plagiarism, because you are not adding anything extra. You have not given any research gap in the previous paper, and you are not doing any addition to it. There is no scope to it. It is just for the purpose that you should have an extra paper published to fit some marks. So this is also an example of plagiarism. Then you have ghostwriting, where you manage to get a article written by somebody else and you publish it as it is, pretending it to be the originator of this article. This is called as persons hiring the ghostwriters. Okay. Now the question arises, what is wrong? Why it is considered, why plagiarism is considered to be wrong? What is the reason behind it? The very first reason is that you are rephrasing somebody else's ideas. How we write an article, basically. We write an article after doing a lot of literature review. The more we read, the more clarity we will have about a particular topic, right? The more questions we'll have in our mind regarding a particular topic. When we start doing literature review related to a particular issue or a problem, because till then it is not a topic, it becomes a topic when we do a lot of literature reviews, and then we try to feel that now I can write something over it. Then we give a heading to it, which you called a topic. Otherwise, it is always a thing which has popped up in your mind, watching your surroundings or watching something on the TV or reading a newspaper, and it comes up in your mind that what exactly is happening. And when you do research on it, you read what previous researches have been done on the topic and what the academicians are saying about it. And after reading everybody, you try to find out the research gap. What is actually happening? Why? When this why comes in your mind, then you are in a position to write a research paper, because you try to find out what is that why. And to answer that why, you develop new ideas, because now you have read all of them and then you have seen the present scenario. Then you trying to find out the questions of that why. So if you are not doing this homework, and you are just picking up material from somebody else and rephrasing someone else's idea, it is entirely wrong. It is unethical. It is immoral, right? Second thing is that even if you're writing the sources down there and you are trying to portray that you have given the citations and that information cannot be checked, the sources are not right, then this is also considered to be wrong, and it is plagiarized articles, right? Third thing is that whenever we write an article, we should give some original contribution to it. If you are just rephrasing the idea of somebody in your article and you are not writing anything from your side, you are not contributing anything from your side. I'm not talking about the suggestions here. Please be clear about it. You are giving some suggestion, that is not contribution. When you are reading something and you have read some 50 pages from a book and you have a complete summary of that book inside your mind, now you are in a state to write those ideas. But when you are reading it, you will develop your own ideas. So the rule is, if you are out of 50 pages, you are making a paragraph in your article, then in that paragraph, at least 20-30 lines should be of your own contribution. It should not be like that you are writing a summary of the article you have taken from somebody else. If you are taking 5 lines from somewhere, at least 16 lines should be of your own ideas. So there should be originality of the thought there. It should not look like as if the authors that you have read about, they are dominating your article. It should be like that you are discussing them, but you are in a state to develop your own ideas, to develop your own opinion about it, and you are contributing something to their research, right? And moreover, this type of fashion of cut, copy and paste is academically dishonest also. It is degrading the standards of academics. That's why it is also wrong. Now, there are certain questions that pop up in everybody's mind when they do research, and everybody is very much cautious about plagiarism. So I have just framed some questions there, and I'll be answering them with as we proceed further. So the very first thing here is, if I quote and paraphrase a lot, won't my paper be full of distracting citations? Like if somebody is saying that I am putting quotations because I am doing literary analysis, and I am paraphrasing also. I have read many books and there are so many sources in my citations. So even does it not look like a mess that this paper is just full of sources only and some quotations and some paraphrases and nothing else? See, there is a smart way of writing the citations. There is no limit for writing the sources. As many sources you want to write, you can write it. If you want to write minimum and you have good quality of books, you can write minimum also, provided whatever sources you are selecting, that should support your argument, your idea, which you want to reflect in your paper. So there are certain tricks that you can definitely follow when you are writing your articles or working paper or research papers. The very first trick, which is easy to understand, if a particular paragraph has been cited, suppose if somebody has written a book and there are so many edited volumes of it, or if somebody, if we talk about law, then if I have a case, that case will be present in so many journals. If Supreme Court has decided something, we have the original source also, and it is coming in the books also, which the students study, and it is coming in the paper also, it is coming in the journal also, everywhere it is coming. So I have so many citations related to a single case. So here the trick is, if there are multiple citations, you can write all of them one by one by putting semicolons. Also C, write one citation. In references also I'm talking about, you can do it in your in-texts also, especially in languages, that this is the main citation, and then you can put your full stop, and again in semicolons you can say also C. You can see this one also, and you can see this one also. So you can write all the citations in one source only. Okay. And second thing is that if you have you have very limited kind of sources and one source is being repeated in your paper, then rather than writing that source time and again and repeating it, which makes a bad impression, you can make use of the word IBID. IBID refers to same as above. So you can write IBID and you can proceed further, right? Now, the second question is, do I need to cite a certain number of sources? As we have discussed already about it, that depends upon the nature of the article you are going to write. You cannot fix the number of sources, provided whatever sources you are taking, that should definitely support the argument and the idea you want to reflect in your paper, your hypothesis, and it should support your objectives. So be it doctrinal research or empirical research, whenever you will do the literature review, and you should do an extensive literature review, so you will definitely have the sources, right? So the only thing is that you should avoid too much of the quoting if it is not a literary analysis. Some people are very fond of starting the article with a quotation up or ending an article with a quotation up. So while selecting the quotations, you should be very choosy. There are certain principles to be followed when you select a quotation, which we'll be discussing in the further slides as well. So too much of quotations should be avoided in social sciences, unless and until it is linguistics, right? So that is the first next thing. Now switching further, the next question is it better to just avoid using sources so I don't risk accidental plagiarism? See, intentional or unintentional, both kind of plagiarism has legal consequences to it, ethical consequences to it, and administrative actions also. So just to avoid the sources is not the solution for it, right? Because a paper without source and citations, you're not a genius that you will write everything on your own and you have not read it anywhere. Because academics is a continuous process. It is an ongoing conversation between the previous author and you as an author of a paper. You have developed the ideas, and your ideas have been developed because of some study done by somebody previously one person or more than one persons, and after reading them you have found the research gap and you have prepared a hypothesis and you want to find out those research gaps. That's why you have framed the objectives now. So this is an ongoing conversation. So for that purpose, it is quite clear that you cannot avoid the sources. The help that you can take it is of the plagiarism checker. There are so many paid plagiarism checkers. Even all the state universities and central universities and national universities have their own plagiarism checkers like Orkund and Trutin. And we have the citation generators also, where we can check the authentication of the citation. What is the actual source of it? Although it has been quoted by many in their papers, but what is the actual source of it? So we can take help from that also for writing our paper. And secondly, we should give citations if we are writing the quotations. That is very much important. Now, the next question is, what is paraphrasing and is it a kind of plagiarism? See, paraphrasing is not a plagiarism, first of all. Rephrasing a paragraph is plagiarism. I repeat, paraphrasing is not plagiarism. You have read some paragraphs in a book. You have taken the crux out of it. Now you're writing it in your own words, completely different from what words have been used by the original author. And you are giving an endnote to it also. And you are writing it in the references also, that these ideas of yours, which you have given there along with the ideas of the author, you have taken this idea from this author, who is the actual originator of it. Side by side, you are writing your own natural ideas also. So this is called as paraphrasing, and this is the way you have to do it. But when you do it rephrasing, that there is no originality of your ideas inside it, then rephrasing is plagiarism, right? So how paraphrasing becomes plagiarism? When we don't cite the source of the information, or we cite it incorrectly, first of all. Or we are paraphrasing something which after reading looks like as if it is written by the original author only. There is too much of closeness or similarity there, right? So just swapping out a couple of words from the paragraph and reformulating the sentences, this is called as paraphrasing. I'll repeat it. Swapping out a couple of words from the paragraphs written by the original author and reformulating the sentences is called as paraphrasing, right? And it is reparaphrasing, and it is plagiarism. Now, what are the different kinds of plagiarisms worldwide which are happening? The first one is the global plagiarism. That is when you are doing the passing of an entire text. No changes. Article has been picked up and published by your own name without citing the original author. Second is verbatim plagiarism. That is the direct plagiarism, where you are picking up the words and without citing the sources, right? Then third is the paraphrasing plagiarism, which we have discussed just now. That is mosaic plagiarism, where you will do what? You are rephrasing someone else's ideas. You are just churning and recycling the sentences and doing nothing else. You have no originality of your own in that. Then we have the patchwork plagiarism, where you have taken 6 articles and you are picking up one paragraph from one and other from other, and you have just patched them together so as to make an article, and you are not giving references of any kind of sources related to that. And the last one in this category is the self-plagiarism, where you are recycling your own work without contributing something new in it. Now, what is to be noted here? Except the verbatim, paraphrasing, patchwork, and self-plagiarism, the global plagiarism is the one which is committed intentionally. Here, the person has the intention of stealing. He has the mental intention of cheating. He has the mental intention of copying. Otherwise, as far as the rest of 4 of the plagiarisms are concerned, they can be accidental also. Now, the question arises, unintentional and accidental, how can it be possible? It can be possible. It can be possible in the sense that the person who is writing the working paper or an article has no knowledge about how to write a work paper, has no knowledge about how to write endnotes, has no knowledge about how to write in texts or the footnotes, how to give references, how to write bibliography, how to proceed to write a research paper, how to make paragraphs, how to develop ideas, how to go through the literature review, how to collect the literature review for themselves. So these are the things, because of lack of knowledge, or because of wrong knowledge, the plagiarism is also taking place, which is called as unintentional, right? Now, let's take them in a bit of details right now. The first one is the global plagiarism. That is, I told you, the intentional one. It refers to plagiarizing the entire text. Means you are copying the entire article and you're just changing the name of the topic and you're giving your name to it, right? And it is always done deliberately and directly, where you have this intention of completely lying out, denying the authorship of the work to someone else. For example, if somebody has done a research work and somebody else is getting it published in its own name, simple picking it up and getting it published in your own name, or also you yourself know it that it does not belong to you, right? So what is the solution for it? Before there are legal consequences of it, the solution is write your own stuff. Simple thing. Develop the habit of reading, develop the habit of developing the ideas, and develop the habit of writing your own stuff, writing your own articles. Start with small blogs, then you go with the essays, and then you write the article. Read good stuff. Good stuff means the different kinds of primary and secondary sources which are available in the market at the moment. You should know which kind of stuff you should go through the hard copies, rather than relying completely on the internet material. That is also not very nice. Internet material can be used to know the current thing, what exactly is going on in current situation. But if you want to know the history and you want to know everything around, then you have to go through your hard copies. That is the proper standard books, good reference books by good publishing houses. Read them and do the justification, right? Now, the second kind of plagiarism is the verbatim plagiarism. That is copying the word directly, right? For example, the text which is completely identical to the original text, you have taken some words and they're completely the same as, and written in the same fashion in your article also, as it was written by the actual author. Here you're not picking up the complete paragraph. Here what you are doing, you are just picking up some words which are patented, or which are the basic feature of somebody's article, and you are trying to portray without giving the citations that is you are the originator of it, right? Secondly, you are taking the words with slightly altered base. For example, we have dictionary meanings. Single word can have different kinds. This is the best part of English, that a single word have a different kind of meanings over there, right? So you can replace the word by some other word having the same meaning, and you're just doing these kind of smart alterations, right? And third one is that majority of the words are the same as the original author, and you are not giving any kind of citation of the sources where you have taken it from. So the solution for it is to quote it. Then you put it in the quotation mark and you give a footnote to it, or if it is a law thing, then you do the footnoting. I'll tell you what is the difference between the two. Or if you are from other background of social sciences, you give the end note in text there, or you give the references there, and you just oblige or acknowledge the person who is basically responsible for it, so that the one who is reading your article, he can also go and see who is the original author and what he is writing, right? And the next one in this category is paraphrasing plagiarism, that is rephrasing the ideas, right? We have discussed it, and I'll just take the examples of it at the moment. That is, the first one is paraphrasing without citations. You're not giving the sources. It is the most common kind of plagiarism being committed. Second is paraphrase, like quoting becomes plagiarism when you rewrite a source points as if that is your own. You are putting a quotation, exactly the same words have been used in your paragraph, but you are not acknowledging it. And the third smart study which the people are doing these days is, suppose a book has been published in English. They are translating that book in Hindi, And the word to word, page to page is the same. Meaning is also same. But they are trying to portray that this is their original work. See, academics is a very wide term. You write something in English or Hindi or in Urdu or in any other language. If it is just a translation, it will always remain to be the work which is of the author, the original author. So just translating it in some other language does not give credit to you as the originator of that idea. So this is also a kind of plagiarism which is very much common these days. So simple is very much simple. Two things you must master when you write articles. First is to write your own ideas. That should be more dominating in your article. And secondly, even if you're taking something from somewhere, put some citations there, right? And the next one in this category is patchwork plagiarism. That is, you are taking material from here and there from 5-6 articles and you have patched them and you have made an article kind of stuff and now you're getting it published, right? So this is the most dangerous kind of articles basically, because they make no sense. It is a complete mess because you yourself, the person who is writing, he does not understand what exactly he has cut, copy and paste. He just has a target to just have 10 pages doing justification to a particular topic, right? Now, the next one in this category, which is quite common and controversial at the moment, because this kind of plagiarism is not regulated by law even. They give permission to every person to reuse their previously published work. So that is a controversy, but ethically speaking, this is unethical. That is called as the self-plagiarism or plagiarizing your own work, right? And this self-plagiarism can also lead to copyright infringement. For example, you have written a book and you have written an article, you have written a PhD. Now you want to get your book published. Very smart things are happening these days. People give, there are advertisements in your inbox saying that as it is, you get your PhD stuff published in the form of a book. People are very excited, especially the students, they get it published as it is, no changes. Even there is hell lot of difference between writing a PhD thesis and writing a book. If you go to the good national, international publishing houses, it is very difficult to write a single page even if you're writing a book, if you are writing for a good publishing house. But if you are getting your PhD thesis as it is published by somebody and now you have a book in your credentials which will fetch you some marks, and then what you did, you have written 5 chapters in PhD, you are taking articles from 5 articles you wrote from that these chapters and you're getting your 5 articles also published. So what you're exactly doing? You're not contributing anything. You are republishing in some different smart manner the work which is already been published by some publishing house. So whenever your article goes for publication, there is a there is a copyright form which you have to sign at that time, where you take this undertaking as an affidavit that your paper is an original stuff and you have not sent this paper for publication somewhere else. So when this kind of misrepresentation you do, it not only undermines your academic integrity, but it is also leading to legal consequences. If somebody is aware about it, it is called as copyright infringement, because you have already given that publishing house who has published your book the right to copy it. And now without taking permission from them and without even informing them about it, you're writing articles from the same stuff as it is and you are publishing your articles also, right? So let's take some example of self-plagiarism, what smart kind of moves people are doing these days. Firstly, resubmitting an entire paper as it is. Same data, topic changed, data same, results same, just few of the paragraphs have been put here and there. Some portion has been taken out, small article has been made and it has been published, right? Second, copying or paraphrasing a passage from your previous work. Now, even if you are writing a new idea, but you are taking help from your previous paper, or sometimes what happens, we write a paper, it has so many dimensions. Now you are working further on that. So you will take some material from your previous one also, maybe it from an introductory part or some other part. So at least acknowledge it. Even if you are writing, it is no harm that you can acknowledge your name also, that you have taken this particular paragraph from which source. Even if it belongs to you, there is no harm in citing yourself there. So copying or paraphrasing passages from your previous work. Third is recycling previously collected data. Same data being used for writing 6 kind of articles without making any sense. Firstly, you have published data related to women, children, and aged people in a single paper. And now you are using the similar data, but you are dissecting it. You are writing 3 articles, one for children, one for women, and one for the aged people. So using the same data, you will conclude the same thing related to them. So this is plagiarism. Next is reusing work that you have previously submitted or published and have already gotten credit for. Same paper published somewhere else also. And switching further, the next thing in this is, there are certain things which you should keep in mind. The first one is, it is still legitimate to reuse your previous work, but you should acknowledge it. You should add something to its scope. That should not look like stagnant thing. It should have something new added to it. Then it is not self-plagiarism. Now, the next thing to know is, what is the difference between citing the sources in legal research and social sciences, basically. So when we do a legal research, we do not rely much on the references. We do write references and bibliography. Especially we don't write references also, unless and until it is a book. If we are writing a thesis, we will not write references. In legal research, we write footnotes. Everybody knows about header and footer. So every single page, every paragraph will be footnoted. As in linguistics, we write in texts. You give a number and you write the name, basically the surname, and you will write the year, and then you explain that stuff in your references in social sciences. So in law, what we do, we give numbering to every paragraph, and every number, suppose we have written 3 paragraphs, so we will have 3 footnotings, 1, 2, and 3. In those 3 footnotings, we will write where we have taken this source from. So this is a first difference. So in law, we do not rely that much on references. We write the footnotes, and at the end, we give the bibliography also. Even if we don't have the references at the backside and we have the bibliography, that is quite sufficient in legal studies. But as far as your other social sciences subjects are concerned, references plays a very important role, and your footnote, your endnotings are the most important part. Now, there are various kinds of citing sources which are available at the moment, but the most common among the students and the researchers is APA style. That is being followed in India to a great extent. We have the Chicago style and MLA style also. And the last one is ILI, that is related to law, that is Indian Law Institute, Delhi. So I have just tried to, just for the information, how much citing is important. And this is just an example of how the APA formatting is done. So you write the author's last name and with comma, the initials, and then in brackets. So when I'm talking about the comma and the full stop and the bracket on and bracket off and italics, then bracket, then published work, unpublished work, the way it has been represented, this is the thing you have to remember. It has to be written in the footnotes in the same manner. These commas and these inverted commas, they play a very important role, because that is because of which it is a writing style. So my purpose of giving this example here is that only, that the way it has been reflected, you have to write it like that only. So at the end, university name and the URL, uniform resource locator, so you can write it that way. And if you are doing some kind of in-text citation, you have written a quotation or you have written a principle, you have put it in the inverted commas, and now you have to cite the source. So we do in-text citations in languages, like in brackets, you write the author's last name and the year, and then in detail, you write about it in the endnotes, which is the book, whether it is edited, re-edited, what is the status of the book, and everything, right? Now the question arises, how we can avoid plagiarism? We can use the plagiarism checker, we can use the citation checker also, but there are certain things as a researcher, because researcher is always a student, no matter he is of which age, and academicians are always researchers, and they should be. So there are certain things that we can keep in mind. We should have a complete track of the sources we have consulted. This is a very big problem being seen among the academicians, that they forget the sources. They make article of 20-30 pages and then they say that, ma'am, our sources are lost. I have forgotten from where we have taken the source. They forget the citation because they have not kept a track of it. So the first thing is that whatever literature review you are doing, remember the citations, the sources from where you have taken it. Just pen it down. So that, because and that approach that you started collecting, see, when we do a kind of research, it is not mandatory that we will get everything in single article. We read lot and lot of articles and books and journals, and then we make a chart of it, how we have to approach in under different chapters. Or if we are writing an article also, what will be my main heading, what will be the subheading, what will be the main points under this subheading and that subheading. So we should jot down these graphs first. We should develop a plan to approach article before even trying to write a single thing, introductory part or abstract of the article. We should have a complete plan how we have to approach to it. And the approach of people is to forget the material photostated they are getting. Just they're reading the name, oh, this is related to my problem, so let it photostated. And at the end of the day, came to know that only 2 lines are important and rest all is not of your business. It is not important to the topic that you are going to write on. So the best part is to maintain a diary. You write the sources, or give some time, 1 or 2 months, read about that. And if you find it important for you, then you get it photostated or get it downloaded so that you can waste your time and energy also. Second thing is, when you are quoting, remember the sources. If you are taking the quotations, you should remember from where you have taken the quotation, what is the source for it. And even if you are paraphrasing, you should know about, in text also, you're writing some principles, some verdicts, like some judgments, some statement given by some judge in a judgment, or even if it is a kind of linguistic study, some principle or some passage totally dedicated to the opinion of a particular author, then you should know the source also from where you have taken it from, so that repository should be maintained by you. And you can make use of the plagiarism checker at any time for this purpose also. So that will definitely be of immense help. Now, this is just an example of how to keep a track of the sources, right? You can use different kinds of things for it. This is my personal thing I do when I approach to write a research paper or a working paper. I make use of the markers, different sketch pens, or I make use of the sticky notes for it. And in every, the different colors in my sticky notes represent the different kind of things. I write on that, like red, blue, and green, suppose I'm taking. So red, I will be picking up for these particular things require, I have to search. Maybe it is possible that sometimes I read something and I miss in between. So I'll put a sticky note there in my diary that these sources are required to be revisited. I have to check the source, where it is, right? And then I use some other sticky notes reflecting which paragraphs I need to paraphrase. Like if I have read a book of, and I have read 50 pages in that book, and now I have an idea of that book. So I can write the name, put a sticky note there with the title of the book, that like the book read, and this is the source of the book, summary of 50 pages. So these kind of ideas you can take, so that when you go through your diary, you know it, that which sticky note represents what. And then you can take some other sticky note which represent the direct quotations you are using inside your research paper. So you can use these kind of sticky notes. And you can also use different kind of sticky notes for the purpose that this will be my original idea there. Because let me tell you one thing, our ideas are frequent. The most important feature of doing a research is that whenever an idea is coming in your mind, you should pen it down. Because once it goes and it is not penned down by you, your subconscious mind will not remember it. It will be just like a random access memory of the computer. The idea came, you thought about it for 1 hour, and then you are busy in something else. It was there in your mind at night also. You thought a bit about it, but after 2-3 days, it totally disappears. So whenever an idea comes, an original idea pops up, because when you select a problem for writing a paper, it is a human tendency. Your mind starts thinking about it. So you will do reading stuff, and you will have your own ideas also. like if the author is writing this, what about this? Said you will start searching for what about, you get something, okay, this is about it, how can I do this? So these are the ideas which are coming in your mind now. So you can pen it down that this particular point or this particular word has to be searched about, or this particular thing has to be literature review has to be done exclusively for this particular thing. And sometimes what happens, writing one paper can lead to you get so much confident that on the same kind of topic you can write 6-7 papers having different kind of dimensions of the topic, which you come to know only after doing the literature review. So you should be in habit of developing, noting down these ideas that come to your mind randomly related to your issue. So this is a kind of chart there. I have written it in numerical fashion, but you can make a diagram. Usually I make the diagrams for it. I make a chart before writing anything. So after doing the literature, suppose if it is a topic of cyber crimes in higher education system, I'm trying to find out that what is the impact of COVID-19 on the education system and to what extent the cyber crimes have been committed, because I'm reading in the newspapers and I'm watching on the television that cyber crimes it's going to be an industry of 7.3 trillion by the end of 2025 worldwide. So obviously I'll do the literature review, and after going to the literature articles, although everything is not available at one stage only in single article, I'll read and I'll come to know that it has a definition part also. Then COVID pandemic article on how COVID pandemic has affected the higher education system can also be a subheading in this. And within those subheadings, I can have certain points related to it. What was the global scenario? What was the global data related to it? And what was the national data related to it? Then what kind of cyber crimes have been committed? When I'm reading, I'll come to know about the names of some kind of crimes. So I can have this topic also, this particular heading inside it also. And if I have to know about the definition part, obviously I'll go through the codes also. Maybe I'm reading the book secondary sources and I come to know about a judgment given by the judge on cybercrime. He has written very good and I want to include it as it is. So I can take the direct quotations also. And I will do the literature review. Different authors have written very good about cybercrime, so I can take their material as well. I can do paraphrasing. And then I will also try to sort out what kind of data in education system is affected by it. So it will be personal data and research data. So I can have material on that also. And then I can also have material on what is the global scenario and what is the domestic laws related to it. So you can write and then you can use your sticky notes, how much material you have got about it, which book is dealing with what kind of heading and subheading I mean to say, and what you need to find out more about it. So in this way, it will be of some help rather than just bushing in, firing in the dark. It is better that you should have some plan how to fire. Now the question arises how we can use quotations in the research work. That is very much important. So some quotations are very small. So when the quotations are very small, then there is no problem. You can put it in the inverted commas and you can go with it, right? Some kind of quotations are very large. So when the quotation is more than three lines or 4 lines and turning out to be a big paragraph, it is always advisable that you should try to paraphrase it. You paraphrase it. That should be done. So if the quotation, I repeat, is small, you can put it in the quotation marks and you can write it as it is. But if the quotation or a principle or a statement is very large, it is taking more than 3-4 lines and it is turning out to be a big paragraph, then you should develop the habit of paraphrasing it. But putting in and giving the citation to it, but you should not add, because it is a principle which has been enunciated by somebody else. So you should not take the credit of that. You should definitely acknowledge the person who is responsible for the origin of that particular principle, right? Now, what is the rule basically? Rule is very simple. We have done it earlier also. The rule is use them sparingly so that your original ideas will be more reflected, except when it is a linguistic studies, first thing. Second is, if it is a long quotation, then put it in the paragraph and acknowledge it also. Paraphrase it. Okay. So question arises when writing quotation becomes important. We cannot avoid it. So very first example is of linguistic studies or literary analysis of the paper. That is quite sure, but it is not only in the linguistic studies that we paraphrase. There are different kinds of studies, like in law also. When we are writing, we are analyzing the judgments given by the judge. And here, the judgment, while passing a judgment in a particular case, the judge has wrote something which is very much important, we find, for the society, right? So if we find this kind of judgments where the judgment has given the interpretations which are very much important for the society, and we want that these interpretations must be included in our paper, so that whosoever is reading our paper will have a better understanding how it has been interpreted. Okay, so we can include, then it becomes mandatory for us to include the quotations there, right? Because that is the evidence basically why this quotation has been, or why this statement has been given by the particular judge in this particular case, right? So quotation is must in the following situations. Firstly, when focusing on the language, that is literary analysis. For example, if you're writing, you're discussing, your working paper is based upon the novels of the Shakespeare. What Shakespeare thinks about a particular societal issue. So obviously, when you're writing about this, you will definitely go for the novels where he has talked about it. So when you will be writing from those novels, obviously you will be interpreting in your own language, putting your own ideas, your opinion, that what you concluded from this novel and what he was trying to say it. But definitely you will be writing about his exact quotations there, so as to have a better understanding of it, right, to the audience. Secondly, evidentiary proof, as I've told you. Suppose if I'm writing a paper on drafting of the Indian Constitution, so definitely, yes, as an evidence, I would like to know what the drafters thought about it at that time. So whatever conversation they had, and if there are certain statements given by them or any kind of interpretations have been given by them, that will be very good evidence, and that will give a clarity of thought, and that will give more good evidence and more support to the argument I am talking about in the paper. So then in that case also, it becomes very much important. Third thing is when the author is dealing with the definition parts, basically. You are defining some concept, some principle over there. And if you have done an empirical study and you have done a data, you have collected the data, and now you are doing interpretation of the data, and a particular kind of statistic tool or a principle has to be applied to that data. If it is a scientific study, then that principle is uniform for that particular kind of study. So if you are writing about that formula or that study inside your paper, that is the only source of it, and then it becomes totally duty bound to write those formulas. So in these cases, these paragraphs, if you have, it is long, or these quotations become mandatory. Then you have this paraphrasing, basically. So we have discussed it, and I'll just tell you about the most important things in it. It is an alternative to the quotations, right? And you should cite the sources in it. Second thing, you should not write the paragraphs which are too similar to the original text. Next thing, and you should write the paragraph when you completely understand the meaning of the text you have gone through. And your paragraph should be dominated by your own genuine original ideas, not the ideas of the author from where you have taken it. The next thing is, what are the consequences of it? Do we have some penalties for it? What the government is doing about it? Is UGC doing something about it? Or we have some ad hoc constitutions for it? Do we have some statutory provisions to regulate it? Can we complain it somewhere? So yes, we have two things here, plagiarism and copyright infringement. We have a Copyright Act of 1957, which deals with copyright infringement. That means when the originator has sold his right of copying his original stuff to a particular journal or a publishing house, and if without the permission of the author or without the permission of the publishing house, somebody is taking up that material and getting it published in its own name, then this is called as copyright infringement. That means the right of copying has been given to somebody else, but somebody else is using it without taking permission from the publishing house, and without taking permission from the author, as the case may be. When we talk about plagiarism, it has a bit of demarcation, although regulated by the copyright infringement only. Plagiarism refers to when we don't acknowledge the actual author of it. If you are writing, publishing, republishing, or you are writing an article and you are not acknowledging the actual originator of that text, this is called as plagiarism. So the scope of plagiarism is wider than copyright. Copyright is a part of plagiarism, but plagiarism is not the part of copyright. Copyright is just a dimension of plagiarism, a part of it. Copyright has got nothing to do with your citation of the actual sources. Copyright is basically when there is violation of the right to copy. Now, what are the sections dealing with plagiarism at the moment in India? So when we talk about the section, the two important sections which are regulating it is Section 57 of the Indian Copyright Act of 1957. And we have Section 63 of the Indian Copyright Act of 1957. So basically Section 57 is giving special right to the originator or the author of a work. The person who is having this genuine idea of a word, text, principle, quotation, book, article, he will be considered to be having this special right. He has this patent under Section 57 to the exclusion of the world, right? And then Section 63 is dealing with the penalty. Whosoever without the permission of this author who is having this special right under Section 57 of the Indian Copyright Act of 1957, he is violating the copyright or he is doing plagiarism, then there can be imprisonment, civil and criminal consequences of both kinds. If it is a criminal consequence, it is a grave thing which has caused a lot of mental harassment and lot of problem to the actual author. Then there can be criminal consequences also. You can file a complaint in the police station. You can report it to the magistrate also. And there will be imprisonment of 6 months that can extend to 3 years. And there can be fine also of rupees 50,000 that can extend to 2 lakh rupees, right? And under Section 63A, if somebody is a habitual offender who is committing this cut, copy, paste business time and again, he is known for it, then this penalty and this punishment, imprisonment can be increased also, depending upon how many times he has been convicted. That's why I'm using the term habitual offender who are into this business only. Now, what are the civil consequences of it? We can have the civil consequences for it as well. The first one is injunction. We have an act called as the Specific Relief Act. And specific relief is the instant relief which can be provided to you by the court before you proceed with the case against the person who has caused plagiarism or copyright infringement to you. And that is called as injunction. It is just like you must have heard the word stay, stop it. Before it is decided, before the case is decided as whether or not plagiarism has been done or copyright infringement has taken place or not, the court will give a decision, provide specific relief to the victim, and they will just stop the publication. This can be of two types, temporary and permanent injunction, varies from case to case. And the second one is the damages to be paid. If somebody has used somebody else's material and had got it published because he was known in the market and his books have been sold more as compared to the original author, and the original author has suffered financial loss because of it, then he can be accountable to the profits made by him, and he has to pay it to the actual author along with the mental harassment which has been caused to the actual author. Okay, so the next thing in this is, who is liable for plagiarism? Both. The person who is getting it published, the person is responsible for copyright infringement, is responsible. And if the author is also republishing it, his already published work without making any kind of changes, he is also responsible for it. And the publishing house is also responsible if the publishing house is also churning and republishing its book. Although republished books comes into the market, reprints and re-edited is a very legal thing which is happening. But if with the same type of contents, a particular publishing house is taking out book, for example, if an author has taken out a book, and a reference book on a particular topic, and then he takes out a student edition of the particular topic, and he has made no changes in it. He has just summarized the contents, that is just recycling of the sentences, rephrasing them. So this is also a case of, no matter any big publishing house can be there, so it is called as plagiarism, right? Then the question arises, is a judiciary also doing something in there? There are so many cases, and I didn't wanted to discuss the cases here because that is for the law students. But there was one very famous case where the action was taken against by the Delhi High Court against the divisional bench by itself only. Here what happened, a judge passed